If you were alive in America between the years of 2004 and 2014, you've probably seen this computer. Maybe not this exact computer, but definitely one of its many, many siblings. Whether it was a behemoth mini tower or a teeny tiny ultra small form factor computer, these were in homes, schools, the library, my dentist's office, tucked away behind cash registers, absolutely all over the place. You probably didn't give these computers a second thought, but while you and the rest of America quietly ignored them, computers like these were running the world.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Seth. This little computer has a special place in my heart, both as a kind of family heirloom and more recently as the center of my PC tinkering hobby. While computers like this one were certainly ubiquitous for a long time, I don't think people really give them credit for the work that they put in over the years, and actually how useful they still are if you're willing to give them a little TLC. So today, let's do that. Let's shine a spotlight on this often forgotten, soon-to-be geriatric computer and appreciate it for what it did in its time and for what it's still capable of doing when upgraded to its absolute max.
The Optiplex 745 was released in 2006 as part of Dell's third series of Optiplex computers. It sports an LGA 755 CPU socket from Intel, 4 DDR2 DIMM slots, PCI and PCIe expansion, USB 2.0, all pretty standard. But it also has serial, parallel, and a floppy drive port for those who are more retro inclined. While these computers usually shipped with something like a Pentium D and maybe a gig or two of RAM, they can be maxed out to a Core 2 quad, 8 gigs of RAM, and whatever GPU you can fit given the power and space constraints. So why am I so fond of the Optiplex 745 specifically? Well, around 2008 or 2009, my dad bought 2 of these Optiplexes, one for the family and one for himself. While my siblings and I used the family one to partake in absolutely peak internet culture, my dad used his to keep up his electrical engineering skills throughout the '08 economic crash. By around 2014 or so, we had stopped using the family Optiplex, but my dad kept using his until 2020, which when you consider it was running Windows XP, a Pentium D, and the original mechanical hard drive, is absolutely crazy.
In any case, this machine has seen a long and hard life. And minus 1 power supply replacement, it never failed him. If you had some luck and got a computer without capacitor plague issues, which was an industry-wide thing at the time and not specific to this line of computers, these were reliable workhorses for a ton of people.
After my dad finally retired it, I took the opportunity to juice this old monster up as far as I could. It is now running an Intel Core 2 Quad Q6700 running at 2.66 GHz, 8 GB of DDR2 RAM running at 800 MHz, a 512 gig Samsung SATA SSD, and some random Dell OEM GTX 750 Ti I found on eBay. For good measure, I also threw in a USB 3.0 expansion card just for that extra touch of modernity.
As for my OS choice, there are plenty of good choices for this machine. It'll run anything from Windows XP to Windows 10 without a fuss, but personally I've got this one, dual booting Windows Vista and Lubuntu. Lubuntu is the perfect combination of modern support and low resource demand for this kind of machine, but if you want to run Windows, I'd recommend 7 or maybe 10 LTSC if you really need to use it for something modern. I've only got Vista on this machine because I have another machine running 7, and not gonna lie, I have a bit of a soft spot for this. Not gonna lie, I kind of have a soft spot for Vista. I just think it is so pretty. Anyway, my own deranged tech preferences aside, how does this 20-year-old computer on steroids feel to use in 2025? Well, you'd be surprised.
Using Firefox on Lubuntu, with the uBlock Origin and H.264 extensions installed, websites load fast enough, and even 1080p YouTube plays perfectly smoothly thanks to H.264 making use of our 750 Ti. Doing office work on LibreOffice is a breeze, as is using Google Docs. Now, running more than a couple tabs will start to stress this machine out, and God forbid you try to run anything other than very old versions of software like AutoCAD or anything from Adobe.
But realistically, for 90% of what people actually do on desktop computers, it has adequate performance. Now yes, it's not going to be as snappy as a new computer, but if you're smart with how you utilize what's here, and you have realistic expectations, because it is 20 years old, I think you'll be surprised how much of your modern computing tasks can be done with technology that released in the Bush years.
As for gaming, we can actually run the current version of Minecraft with pretty much no issues. Granted, I did install Sodium and Lithium, which are performance mods, and yes, it will chug when the world is loading or new chunks are loading, but if you aren't doing that 24/7 or you're letting a server do it, you could absolutely play modern Minecraft on this thing. Your other game choices are limited by the lack of modern instruction set support on this CPU, so don't expect to be loading up Baldur's Gate 3 on this thing, but if you want to revisit some Xbox 360 era classics, this machine would be perfectly suited for that. At 1080p with appropriately tuned settings, Fallout New Vegas, Portal 2, and Bioshock Infinite all ran great on this machine.
Finally, I think there's something to be said about the utility of this kind of computer for somebody who's a tech tinkerer like myself. With some fiddling around, mainly finding drivers, this computer will run Windows 2000 and Windows 11. It has that floppy port for retro software, older models in this series have IDE, it takes standard ATX power connectors. The flexibility of this kind of computer for being able to run software both old and new is pretty outstanding. I've personally used this computer to play with development builds of Windows like Longhorn, install a PCI SCSI hard drive controller card to back up the hard drive of my dad's 1993 Macintosh Quadro, install an old sound card to experience hardware accelerated sound, and even temporarily run a Plex server before my modern hardware came in. Now, I wouldn't recommend running any servers on a machine like this for both security and power usage reasons, but if you're willing to invest a little in this machine and have an interest in not letting perfectly functional hardware go to waste, machines like these can still be extremely useful. It may not be your daily driver anymore, but there are still a ton of legitimate uses for this kind of hardware. And for something that's nearly 20 years old, I just think that's really, really cool. Thanks for watching, y'all. If you like this dive into an often neglected portion of desktop computing, feel free to give this video a like or click on that subscribe button. If not, I at least hope this video convinced one or two of you out there to keep your Optiplex out of a landfill for another year or two. Anyway, that's all for now. Have a good one.